I did this last night. This is more of a,
Excuse me.
this is more of a, you know, a creek that is just next to my house. When it gets foggy, it has interesting kind of a color effects. But that itself, it is about 3 or 4 layers, and each layer has to dry before. I tried to speed this up so at least it could be done in a one demo, but still, it would still from yesterday to today, the paper is still from last night is damp. So one of the things that we need to do in watercolors is try to kind of keep it very simple and treat it as if it's going to be going out with a small palette like what we have. This is what you guys ordered. So I just went in, I bought one, so at least I have it ready to show you what it looks like. So what I do is I take a paper clip. I don't know if you can see. I took a paper clip and paper clip.
Oh, a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
like a binder clip.
Yeah, they sell this thing about $10. This is fairly new. It's interesting because I'll tell you advantages for this palette is. First of all, it's the size of the book that you've ordered. So it would be always nice to keep it together. Second, it has a texture on one side. This side has a texture. And if you were to use watercolor pencils, you can almost grind the watercolor paste on that texture. And then with the water, a little touch of water, you can mix colors because we don't have much of a mixing area. We have only these 3 mixing areas. And being so little, when you're trying to make your grays, and you use an ultramarine blue and raw sienna, and try to make a gray sky and a blue sky, and then you come back for a green, there's not very much space to do any other colors. Then you have to clean all this up. And those are always useful colors to have later on watercolor to go back and reuse so you have a consistent color range. So this palette itself is it has enough area, surface area that you can use to mix your colors on if you need to, or if you had a pencil, extra pencil, black or white, you can always grind it on this opposite side. You can turn it around, and that would give you mixture of colors. So you could use your yellows and greens with a pencil format, which sometimes is nice. It gives you texture. So that goes for the. This could be placed in this notch. There's a little notch here, and place it on notch, and it holds by itself. And here is one of those. You could use any kind of container. I'm just using this plastic because it's light. My purpose is to be light, so something I can close, and it will take some of the water. It won't dry, or you could use one of these containers or 2 of these cups, make smaller ones maybe, or 1 large one, and Velcro it on a board so that it's there when you wanted it and it's not going to fall, because you need if you're standing and sketching, you would need a base, this is the base that connects to your watercolor palette and your water. And finally, your brush. Some of this could be, I think this one here would also do that. The older ones, I use this one here for my water brushes. It's a little larger for water brush, the opening of this clip. But the clips, the normal clips, the black ones that your bulldog clips, has a smaller opening on the handle, so you can actually use your brushes, and if you have 2 brushes, you can leave 1 brush into this clip bar.
Okay. So Jay, I'm on the Amazon website and I'm looking for your palette.
Yes.
I don't know. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing it right away. So when you get a chance, could you post on Canvas what the URL would be for the palette?
The palette, yeah, palette. I'll just, yeah, it's just fairly new. I've found it out. I was going to cut off small piece of boards for you, but then I realized when I learned the practicality of having the backside of it used for watercolor surface is called Caran dash C.
Oh, wait a second. Sorry.
Caran
One more
dash
time. C.
CARANDACHE. It's called Caran dash. They have their watercolor brushes are very nice, and they have a lot of art material.
Yeah, I don't see a square palette. I see all the round ones.
No, if it's a Caran dash, this is a. If we just write the Caran dash, CARANDACHE.
Right. So it must not be an Amazon product. I have to go someplace else for it.
Let me see. I think I ordered it from Amazon.
I see it now.
You do?
Yeah, at Blick.
Rick has it?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I can look for a watercolor brush or the pencil and show you how it works. But this is very, I mean, it's a good piece to have if you're going to do any drawing or on-site drawing. And then a watercolor palette and a bulldog clip. You would need maybe a container. And I think I use this. I don't know if you guys like chewing gum at all, any kind of bubble gums or chewing gums, but I use this mainly. It has a nice cover and contains a lot of water. So you could buy different containers, but this one here, it can be also used to hold water. And all you have to do is put a Velcro on the bottom, one of those Velcro dots, and transfer it. Right now I have it with stick tape because I didn't have a Velcro. But then you can use this as a container. So, because you have to wash your brushes. If you use I would just say at least one brush that it's 8 is the small. 8 is very small. So I would go for this size of a painting. I would say 12 would be a nice 10, 12. Would be nice. And then if you buy the Princeton, I have a Princeton Art 4050R, and it's a round. This one is number 12, and comes to a really fantastic point, which is very important because it's a synthetic brush, so you're not going to lose the point, and it's not that expensive. So I don't have a fancy camera like Megan, like you or Peter. So so if you were to and use the side belly or to create clouds if you need the clouds, or side of the, or if you want to be able to do a very fine trees. And then as it's wet, obviously, if you use a little tap of a green, you could change the color to any And then red, use it a little.
Okay. Jay, can I ask you to move to your right? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just didn't see.
Got it, got it.
In a laptop, it's so small. So the belly of the, you notice it's round and it has a nice belly on the side. So you can actually do a lot of texturing. And then holds a lot of liquid. So you can go back and so I would recommend maybe if you're buying one brush, this would be a nice brush to invest on. Or there's one that also it's new, it's called Neptune. I believe maybe it's a Winsor Newton or Neptune. They also have brushes. This one is Escado. I think this is Spanish or Italian. This is much fatter. The belly is much fatter. So if you were to do more of a wash, you decide that you're doing the sky wash or you're trying to create a surface. So first you will be doing maybe 1 or 2 underlay washes. It could be, as long as you have some white spots, it could be a medium, I would say, as far as the colors are concerned, I would keep it to a 1 to 5 or 6. So tones are, if you did in black and white, I would use 3 tones. Black is the last one, was a 9. And middle tones, white is 0. So anywhere else is, if you can use anywhere else as your colors to create the first layer, this is going to go, it will dry almost 30 or 30% at least lighter than what it is now. So it will end up looking, once it dries, it could even look like this. Originally, orange was much darker, but this is underpainting. So you can do underpainting with a diluted water. The more water you put in mix it with the watercolor, it becomes more dilute and you see the white through the paper. So then it allows you for next layers when you put on, you don't see the white of the paper, but you see washes, all the gray washes that are created here. And for that purpose, if you use a small brush and you start tapping it, you'll have all these busy layers that you won't look very nice once you do your layers. So it's always nice to start with a wash brush or large brush, and preferably to have a point on it so you can go back and once it is dry, you can go back and still is damp. As you can see the paper, it reacts differently. Still is absorbing water. No matter how heavy I use, it's going to. But if this was dry, like this one, like this, and I went in you'll have some harder edges. So the edges are not all very soft. The paper is can vary colors, always some magenta and green. You could place blue certain points, but you have a definitely hard edge. And then obviously you can soften the edges with little water. So hard and soft edge. We're trying to make the trees. Whereas if you look at this example, by placing paint over, everything is just flat. It just absorbs like it's like a blotter. It just blots right through the paper. Whereas when it dries, you have nice sharp edges, hard edges, and then you have soft edges. And for soft edges, you can either do, I always have a napkin with me. I clip a napkin, and you can always blot. As you can see, it takes some of the color off and creates a little spacing or opening. So that would be the brush. Now, if you were to use watercolor, water brushes are fantastic because you don't have to carry, they say you don't have to carry paper with or a water bottle with you. But the problem with those are when you go into the paint, to take paint off, it will take paint on and absorb right in through the brush. Then you place it here, maybe with a drop of squeeze the backing so it cleans the brush, but still is not clean. If you notice, it's still blue. So to overcome this, I always have this, every time I change color, I have to squeeze water and try to clean edge of my brush before I go to the next one. Otherwise, I'm going to contaminate the paint that it's being mixed with.
So the kit that we have on order says it comes with 14 pens.
It does?
That's what it says.
Pen.
Is that?
I think these are the pans. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh.
12 pans. Is that 14 pans?
14. I thought it said 14.
Yeah, maybe new.
Okay.
These are the pans of color. I maybe it came in with a tiny little brush that it's just can
Useless.
draw hair, no good for anything. It's just like a. But this was the least expensive one. It's a Cotman color. Cotmans are student version. They also have a professional version of the. I normally do this. Whenever I have a palette, I try to do a drawing of the palette, and I put the colors, and I mix some of these colors here, so it just gives me the feeling of I can see what colors I'm actually mixing, what my oranges are, what my greens are, and then I have 2 sets of it. This is a professional, and this is the Cotman version. Cotman version has a couple of more colors that the Cotman doesn't have. This is the Cotman side, 2 less colors. Professional has, I think, the ivory. You try to make ivory, you have to mix ultramarine and raw sienna. By the time you mix that, you create your gray, black. Then one of your palettes are filled up already, and you want to use that black, dark color everywhere else. So only gives you 2 more mixing area. So professional version, they went ahead and added white. I don't know what they put white. White you never use. So I don't know what this is for. Maybe students that like to do a tiny highlights on an eye of an animal or something. That's the last touch you use. You never use it for anything else. But The professional version, I believe, has two more colors. One is a black, which is ivory black, and the other one is violet. Okay, to make violet, you're again mixing blue with a alizarin crimson, and those are most useful colors. Once you mix those two to make violet, again, you have one more palette that you fill up. So then already it gives you one to work with to do any greens or yellows with the. This area is very small for this purpose. But again, you never paint this size of paintings, drawings. It's always a sketch that you do on a site. It's called study. You study, you take colors. I never finished this this drawing, but I was waiting for my wife at work. So there was that building, architecture building, that it had interesting details. So I just went ahead and sketched it, and then she came back early, so I never finished it. But what I normally do is I take a very thin pen or pencil, and I draw the architectural lines, not too much detail, just outlines. And then I go back, I do the sky first, and then I do an underlaying greens, just the lighter greens. And you build up from that. Then you do the roof or some of the windows. Again, everything is very light and gray. Then you come by building. You start from light to dark, as you know, watercolors.
Okay.
So that this is size and type of amount of color. You put just dab a color. You don't even try to do too much color because it's a suggestion more than anything else.
Mm. So for our field trip to Caetano Park in 2 weeks,
Yes.
would you suggest?
See, there's another small one. Again, there's not that much paint is used there. It's a small amount, but you just dab some color here and there, so you're not mixing that much color. So you do outline, and one of the things in watercolor I learned in time is that you try not to go over it too many times when it's wet. You just have to leave it, and sometimes the paint itself creates this really beautiful color mixes and interesting shapes that are grays. And still, this is not a finished drawing. This may be the second layer. This may be 2 or 3 layers before it. I don't have the dark of darks. This is like medium tones. This one I just went ahead and put a little bit of a dark tone. So it's to me, this is as much as I want to do on a drawing.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be a tree. It could be a fly you like, or I mean, it just could be just the beginning of it's kind of grass, or it's a little sky with the little flowers. It could be very simple. You know, again, it's an underdrawing of flowers that I never finish.
So I'm tempted before we go out to do an underpainting of just a blue sky and, you know, green grass.
Yeah.
And so that when I'm out there, I can add to it, right?
Yeah, something like this. You do a gray sky maybe, and then you come back and put the blues after, because color sky nowadays it's a white, gray, white, and blue. So the simplest thing is if you run a complete blue sky by this is what I use for my home studio. It's a collapsible water jar that collapses, goes flat. I have always 2 of them. And one of them is for my dirty water, one is for clean water. So I wash my brush and completely, and then I go wash my brush, rinse my brush on the second one. This collapses, so if you have a bag, a purse, you're going somewhere that you'll be sitting down and you're not walking around, if you're walking around, you need something that is actually attached to your palette that you need. But if you're not, you're going to sit in a cafe, you could use, again, something this small, add the water, Pete's coffee, add them your glass of water, pour it in there, and then you paint. So this is what I use, and I like it. They make it dark. Winsor Newton, I think, makes a really dark browny color one, and I like this one better. It looks cleaner. Can you see the dirt also? The water, how dirty the water is, because you see through it. So if you were to do this one, I purchased from Michael's. I don't know if they have them or not, but this is one of my favorite bee paper. I don't know if Megan, maybe you've heard of it. It's called bee paper.
I think.
Like bee. And they have also sketchbooks. Now they have started making this really nice. This is almost level of obviously, if you've done watercolors, you know arches, right? You guys have done watercolors, you know arches, and this is so expensive. I mean, it's just very expensive. So if you want alternative and you're doing small sketches and you don't want to buy it, this is what I highly recommend. The paper is, as you can see, okay, small space. As you can see, it really takes and starts diluting all the granules of the paint on the surface. It absorbs it, and you can also work it. Once it dry, you can almost take some of the color off. So this was a catch. I saw it. It comes in individual. It's not a booklet. It's just individual papers. There's 2 stacks of it. I tried to put a rubber cement and make a block. That's how you normally blocks you purchase, watercolor blocks that you purchase. But it like this one here, I went ahead and put rubber cement on the edge. So I make a little booklet. But once you open it, it just it doesn't stay because it doesn't have a binding. So you know, it becomes a little sheet. Like
it's called B as in boy paper.
It's a BEE paper, and then it's a Aqua B. It says Aqua B at the bottom.
Oh, Aqua B. Okay.
6 inches by 9 inches, and it's 140 pounds, 300 grams, 25 sheets.
Yep, got it.
That is how much is it asking for?
$19.99.
Yeah. Well, is it Michael's?
Cheap Joe's Art stuff.
Because Michael's always have those 40% coupons. They always have 40% coupons. So if you buy it from them, then they give you more discount than Cheap Joe's, and you're not paying for shipping. Sometimes they don't charge you for shipping, but
yeah. Okay, got it.
So if you were to do
terrific.
Do the back of this. I can do this. You're doing.
Oh, here it is, Michael's.
I'm going to use the same palette that hopefully you're getting. I think that's the one. So when you're doing sky, first you have to decide it's a vertical or horizontal format you're going to paint. Are you going to paint this way, or are you going to paint that way? So let's say if you're doing a horizontal format, as you know, you've been in many of Dave's classes, horizon line, you try not to do it in the center. If you're showing more sky, you just drop your horizon line 2/3 down. So you make your line at this point. So below that will be either rocks or grass or whatever, maybe water running, river with whatever it is, or even trees growing and going into the sky. So this would be your upper section. And then what I normally do is I start with the first wash. I wet the paper a little bit, like this. I wait so it's not too wet. I wait until that sheen, there's a sheen when you put the water on, there's a definite sheen. I let it until it becomes a little bit, almost, that sheen is gone. So then I would take colors that I would go if it was a morning or it's an evening, whatever you try to use. You could start with yellow ochre. You could go to alizarin crimson, because yellow ochre gives you the light, the yellowness of the light. And then above it, you can go to your blues. Because if you put the blue color against yellow, it'll become green. So what alizarin does is it becomes this, makes this buffer between two, between blue and the, I think I run the line down here. So then that would be, this would be your sky. Now, if you needed to give it a little texture, then you can, people think of making blue color. I rather paint the blue first and then come back with a napkin. With the napkin, I blot the, I don't know if you can see, I blot the light blue, so it gives me a cloud, and then come back, go underneath the cloud a little bit over and try to give it a, you can see another. All I'm doing is using the belly of the brush, so. And you can add a little more if you wanted to. Make one corner darker than the other. So you can go back and blot some areas that. Now use it. Let's see my hair dryer. I use this very small hair dryer because it doesn't make so much noise.
Yeah, I remember doing this a lot for my watercolor class that I had some semesters ago, where it's just having the watercolor block there near my bathroom and just having um, the hairspray just going the whole time.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I hate the sound of it, but if you're in a hurry, if I do watercolors, I sometimes do more than one watercolor. I let one of them dry. I don't bother with them, and I just go to the next one. But if Susan, you're going to do any type of a
Yeah, you tape it down.
very, yeah, you tape the edges onto. Now this is 140, 300 grams. So this won't work as much. I mean, I put so much water on it. Still, it's quite flat. You can always do this, the edges, so you can keep it. But this is the lightest I would go, the first layer, until it completely dries. And then you go your second layer, so that your blues are more like a light blue. It's not dark blue, or it's not white. You try to not to have leave so much white in the page. I had one painting I was going to show you, but I maybe buried behind all my paintings, but it's a very large one. I had to buy a special paper for it too. The normal paper wouldn't work. And for me to keep it stretched, I had to get a large glass and tape it on the glass and work on it. It was almost like this wide angle panoramic view of ocean, and there's a little city. And for me, it was to keep it from water getting underneath and warping. Was too large. Was Yeah, because with the dryer you can dry one area. If you don't dry it constantly, you dry one area and you start drying the next one, it already created that the dark edge that makes it warp.
Yeah.
So you just have to, and I did not know at that time. I just kind of tried. I was tired most probably in the evening. It was a college project maybe. And so I started trying to dry it from one end to the other. That didn't work.
Oh yeah.
So if you do something like this and then come back, use
I
your
like
other.
drip effects with it though when blow drying it. Like if it creates a cool drip effect that makes the watercolor, like if there's enough water there, move it around, then it's like, hey, I'm painting but with not a brush. It's magic.
I mean, then when you come back to the heels, and you can always try to make the edge a little bit darker, like, and see that if you use a like purple against yellow, it has a very distinct, because of the contrast in colors, gives you very distinct light. So you see the light more light of the yellow or yellow ochre that you couldn't see. Now you're noticing it. It's then you can go to your greens maybe, or if there's any. Or if you want, you can turn it around and have this water running back to itself. create any type of a vegetation or for, just creating a interesting shapes for the putting plants or shrubs or trees. But if you let the colors mix, the purple and green and yellow, and at the end, you have a background that you could be very creative, putting other, maybe small house or maybe whatever you see. The way I normally do is when I go to a site to draw, it's so much peripheral vision, there's so much for you to do. I always look at a center piece that I like. For example, if it's a house or a bungalow or a little door, or I would take that and I would sketch it. I normally have photocopy paper, few of them, and a pencil. So on the side of pencil, I will do a black and white study or tonal study, and I won't go to all the tones. I'll just make it to 2 tones, basically. If the white is a white, black, I don't even bother. I just mostly do the middle grays, and I try to connect them together. So if there's something, a tree is here, I connect to a person, and I connect, so it's connected somewhere, and your eye is moving. But I would on that paper, I would do, if there's a palm tree, I would draw the top palm tree. And maybe it's somewhere else, it's further away to my vision. But I'll do the palm tree separately. I'll sketch it, I do the branches, I do the colors. Later, I'll do the colors later, but it's still black and white. I'll do the little hut that I like. I try to kind of concentrate and look at the shadows and shades and textures and what color should I use for the roof. There's leaves falling on top, the shadows creating interesting, or the tree next to it is creating this kind of banding effect on the top. And so I would do all of those in a black and white. And then further, I take 3 different subjects. And then if I have time, and the weather hasn't changed and I still have time to do it, I'll go in and I do a sketch or composition of those 3. I'll put them in the composition, and I'll try to apply color, what I see, not what I imagine. Sometimes you're limited to what you have in your palette, but I'll try to get as close as possible, because I've noticed I've always get excited with these beautiful colors and things. I take a picture with a good camera, Canon, Mark V. You go outside, take a picture, you come home, you look at it, and it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel the same, no matter how much you can Photoshop it. But some of the sketches that I've done on the spot, and it excites, every time I see it, I remember that. It brings back feeling of that time I was there.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are, and they're not perfect, they're sketched, they're studied. There are ones that you can actually paint and make it larger one day if you want to, or drop it on some other thing behind it.
Yeah, I have some like mini micron pen sketches. Like they're not anything major. They're just like a quick few line directions to show a little image of what some of the landscape look like. But they kind of bring back some memories every time I look at them sometimes. Because even though they're not too detailed, I go, oh yeah, I drew that because I had 2 seconds to draw that, things like that.
I think what is nice is that with a picture, it takes you a second to take a picture and you think you're done, you walk away. But when you're drawing or painting, you see things and you leave the moment. That's what I always, I leave the moment. If there's a breeze, the weather changes, or there's some aroma from Jupiter tree, whatever it is there, you are part of nature. So when you're drawing, it's not only how perfectly mixed colors, proportions are right, you're beyond that. It's your impression or your feeling, your emotion. And those are the success, for me, for myself, those has been the successful paintings I've done that I have liked. So
Yeah, like I've done like sketch studies, and I've heard that there's actual scientific studies on like we remember things better when we write or draw them physically. Like they have actual like neurological psychology studies where they found that our brain is more like our hippocampus and stuff is more able to transfer information for memories better when we're writing it than just typing it. And
All
but
right.
it depends from person to person. Though at the same time, a lot of people tend to write more for like note taking and stuff, and it's kind of a similar thing with drawing.
You know, for years and years, my own business, I had a lot of pressure in my work. I had my own company, I had my own clients, and there was international clients. So there were projects that was taking place in South Africa. There is another project that was setting up in Anaheim. So and there's one I'm proposing. So it's like juggling act. And I had kids growing up, 3 boys growing up, and wife and a big home that needed everything needed taken care of. So only way I could earth myself is I always had a fly rod. I think I mentioned that maybe that I had I started fly fishing. So I used to tie my flies before I went. I got so excited. It's like packing for a trip. So I would call the local place in Atlanta, or I was going to Key Largo, and I'll find out what type of flies are hatching at that time of year. So I knew the pattern. I would make the pattern, and I would carry it with me. I even an airport. I always had a fishing vest with a fly rod. But middle of the show, I would always give time to be next to nature. I mean, I would be in the water, in the waders, wherever. I was in New York, or I was in Chicago, or I was in Japan, or wherever. I would be, sometimes I may give myself that permission, or I want to be part of that, I want to be there. And hours I would be in the water, because it would be dark, I would speed in the water. And that gave me clarity, complete clarity. When I came back, I could just cope with every day. So watercolor is something that is very similar. It's because you're absorbing constantly, you're taking information, you're calculating. If you look at the enjoyment part of it, if you look at challenge of saying, hey, I'm going to make that look like a photograph and get mad to yourself, then it defeats the purpose. So um, I find that I lived in England for many years, and when I was doing small watercolors there, it was so humid and always wet. My paper will never, I never need to worry about.
It never dried.
It's like, I try to go out early mornings, but it dries. You just have to keep it wet. Or sometimes it's good, because if you're impatient and doing this called sketches, you prefer to it dry so you can put the second. But sometimes you mix the paint, the right color paint, and you want to reuse it just a little bit later, but it's already dried. You put water on it, it got too diluted. So it's like you just have to have, it's a different mindset how you approach watercolors in a hot climate versus humid climate. But it's all fun. And it's also fun if you can do it with a group of friends, because you're exchanging ideas. Or you're keeping memories alive. You know, lately, if I go to a coffee shop with my wife, I have this small sketchbook, and I have so many just sketches of her. She's always there doing coffee, and this slowly now I'm sketching people behind, kids, or I try to sit at different sits so I have a different view of cars, or it could be a single tree, or it could be a bird, or it could be flowers blooming. And I date it, and then I look back, it's like I can remember what I ordered and what kind of coffee I ordered and what was going on. I have a good memory, and I enjoy. That's why I like the small sets, small as you can do to make it. I have a couple of real tiny ones. This one I made it from, little phone, telephone memory cards that you put it into these little boxes.
SID cards or those.
For the camera camera memory cards that you put in the camera. That's so I don't know if you can see that. But
Oh,
you know what these are? These are when you buy buttons at the sewing, when you go to Joanne Fabric, and they sell this kit of buttons that you can make your own buttons. They have caps at the end of them. These are like five or five colors, and these are palettes. This is mixing trays for me.
oh, that's really cool. I've heard of people doing this for various watercolor paints. Like some people use old eyeshadow containers, stuff like that.
This is an old eyeshadow case. This one here. Right?
Yeah, like that.
I petted it and I cleaned it all the powder, and I filled it with different colors. So and then I put on the top, and you know, whatever I think I use a Koya paint. So I put the name of, and I painted each box so I know what colors I have.
Clever.
That is really cool. Yeah.
I took my brush, I cut the brush shorter. It has a long handle, shorter so it fits inside the.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
One. As you can see, I cut this one also, and so because I wanted a bigger brush, but I didn't want the long handle. And you close it.
That's really cute. I love that.
LA something. I think they have it in dollar store or somewhere. That brand of. I didn't remove that. And the other thing I had to do is I put these little magnets, small tiny magnets, because those magnets can hold if you're using any tray, or like for example, this is a one of those pouches that you put your memory cards. I used to go to shows and I put the metal strip here, so then I can put see one metal strip. It's in that pocket, in that clear pocket. It clicks there. So when I open it, I can even have a ring. I can hold it like this, and then on the bottom I have one more of the same pouch. And what I have inside of it is, do you know Yupo paper? It's called Yupo paper. I think it's a film. We buy it as a paper pad. It's called Yupo. I cut pieces and I put it in here. What this is, it's a mixing. So it's a mixing surface. You can mix colors. So if you need mixing surfaces are very important, because you're trying to make colors, mix colors. It's not directly coming from your palette. It's coming from, you have to see these color mixes that you can make grays, and so this surface is perfect, and then you can actually wipe it. And it's not like paper that is going to keep it. You wet it. I don't have it. Clean tissue paper, but it really cleans and it's reusable. So here I can have 10 colors, or I can have 3 colors with 4 colors with the 3. Then I can have this one mixing section. This one glue came off, but I put a stick tape on the other side of it, or I keep it loose. I prefer it because I can wash it, put it in water and wash. Now at the end of it, you have a very small mixing palette, and it doesn't weigh much. I mean, if it's in your pocket, if you're going to somewhere, you start loading things, you're taking with you, it just becomes always like, I have to paint because probably a bit new. But if it's there, and you happen to sit there, and you're not also taking less attention from public, and you haven't set yourself up by complete, people are not coming and talking to, oh, my niece is doing this, my, just once you start talking, you'll never finish painting. It's always nice to have conversations, but not nowadays, actually. So, but yeah,
This was terrific.
this is dried almost.
Oh,
The layers that you can go.
yeah.
And this one is almost dried. This could be used as the start of a painting. So what else I can share with you? This was, this was the other one with the water, darker waters, if you put the darker water. Yeah, most important, take a little bit of salt with you. The salt.
Salt.
Beautiful textures. I was showing you, I gotta watch my little leaf that I had. I was showing you. Yeah,
There's a leaf one, yeah.
See those little textures, beautiful textures?
You just added salt?
Salt, you just add salt when it's wet.
When it's wet, okay.
And of course,
Oh, it goes shh.
yeah, it starts blooming. It creates these beautiful blooms. So you first start painting this, just put water, just paint with water completely without even masking. You'll see it's shiny, so it's water. Then you put in any colors you want as a background, make one background, and when you move it like such, like you shake it, all that colors will start moving into wherever the water is, the paint will go. And then you, with the tap of your brush, you go hit these corners with a different color, like this was magenta, use a little purple, you can use a little orange. And then once it's just before it dries, use something, could be your nail or it could be something hard, score the paper. Once you score the paper, it will start keeping these veins, it will show the veins going through. Once it absorbs water in there and it dries, you can start seeing these lines, the veins of the, and it's
Very cool.
yeah, it's really.
I'm gonna try that.
I went in during the design club. I was, because of this demo, I thought I'll just go in and I collect some nice leaves.
Mhm.
These colors.
Can you bring them in 2 weeks when we go to the park?
I'm sure there'll be even nicer ones. There's really beautiful. Look how
Yeah, gorgeous.
yeah, these are pretty. So I was going to use one of these to demonstrate the way that greens and that magenta and that it's so pretty. And you can actually take this and trace around it. I mean, you can trace around with your pencil, put it flat on a paper and trace around to make it more natural. Or I just kind of did it very hard. This didn't have. I was trying to do something that I can show you just in case.
Very nice.
Yeah. So
Okay. Thank you, Jay. I've learned a lot. I'm very excited. I might start without you before Thursday.
I'm very sorry that it's just got complicated. My telephone, and I never got this information, received the information in time. Otherwise, my paintings would be hung today.
I know.
I'll show you one watercolor before you guys go. Yes.
Sweet.
I don't think Susan is looking.
Oh,
Susan there.
I love how you caught the waves coming up on the rocks there. The paints.
Yeah, really good.
The key is when you do watercolors, like any painting, when you pick up a color, pick another color. Don't try to stick with the same color in the same place. You buy a little bit of that, the brush on something else. And once it started drying, mixing, if you don't overdo it, overwork it, all of these granules of the colors will start finding their own little patterns. And they complement, the entire painting will complement one another because you used the similar colors as well elsewhere. So
where was that?
this was, I think this was from photograph.
Mhm.
I did not. I've never been there. Or I use some of my imagination, composition
It's
imagination.
beautiful.
So,
Nicely done.
thank you.
Oh, you framed it.
Yeah, this was framed to go. I don't know how to price things. I don't know how to sell things. So this thing is going on. I was not. What would you price something like this? If you're not desperate to sell.
I don't know. Because I am surprised at how much time it takes. This is something that I've learned in my last class with Dave. I'm just amazed at how much time it takes.
If you look at the time and put $100 an hour and you put the hours, it will never work.
Yeah.
But if you just look at it as a something that you sell and somebody will enjoy and encourages you to paint more without underpricing yourself, because you go something very low,
Yeah.
think, oh, that must be bad, or especially if it's in a school or if it's in a student work or something, all of a sudden think, oh, this is student work. They try to nitpick it or do whatever they can do. So, but yeah, pricing has been one of my naming paintings and pricing. Those two has been not an easy task for me. At one point, I used to open the Bible and just open up one page and put my finger, and amazingly, you find beautiful words that are never been used, and it could mean a lot to different people. So
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I think this
Well,
is
that's very
done,
nice.
right? You guys are ready to go?
Yeah. So thank you for spending some time with us today. Much appreciated. I learned a lot. I feel a lot more confident about going out on Thursday next week. So I think we'll have some fun. Hopefully our supplies will be in by then. And look forward to seeing you outdoors.
If not, I'll bring some with me. So
Yeah. So how's your headache now?
yeah, it's much better. It's it comes and goes when I sit down. When I'm down, my head is down. Maybe it's just a combination of coming from I've been moving around, so I just got off. I guess.
Good.
Circulation of blood.
Yeah.
I've been very active. I used to want a bike and ride around. Now, just like it's just hard for everyone.
Yeah, nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you for being there. Sorry I was late.
No problem.
Thanks for
But yeah.
So does anybody have any questions, or do we need to decide anything? Or are we just looking forward to 2 weeks?
I think we're just looking forward to 2 weeks.
Are you guys going to buy the brushes? Most importantly, get those
Brushes. Okay. Yeah, I need to go check mine out, see if I have any.
If you can get this is an essential thing, because also with the elastic band, what it does is
Elastic band, huh?
I believe this would be the size of book that you're buying, but what you do is you put an elastic band in the back of your pad like this, and then you slide a little bit, and you can always use so you have your palette, and then you have your
all you need is water and you're good to go. Nice. Smart. Very smart.
I'll Velcro this on this, and then clip that, and then my pad is already connected. Then all I need is for my brush, and if I'm getting one of those clips, the old-fashioned clips, black ones. The hole is much smaller, so you can, whenever you're done, you're using the second brush, you actually slide this over, and then you have somewhere to hold.
A free hand.
Yeah.
Terrific. All right.
Maybe second brush, you can get something smaller, maybe number 8. If you're doing tiny work, this is number 8.
Mhm.
You can buy same brand, or you can buy much smaller in profile.
Terrific. Got it.